Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I am excited to be here this morning. I hope you are as well. We welcome you into this space on a Sunday morning, a beautiful Sunday morning in Naples, and we're grateful for your presence this morning. If you're watching this service live on Sunday morning for the first time, or if you're watching us via our archived services on YouTube or Facebook, we welcome you into this space and hope you'll enjoy today's service. If you are new to us, we hope that you will contact us and let us know you're out there, either by, if you're live, making a comment in the Facebook Live comment section this morning and being welcomed by others that are present this morning, or by contacting our office administrator, Anna Riazzi, at office@uunaples.org. That's office@uunaples.org, and Anna will make sure that you get on our mailing list and get all the information about everything that's going on here at UUCGN. Our mission statement says that we are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth, that we strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. And to that end, we are grateful today in that sense of the broader community to welcome our friends from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and the Alliance for Fair Food. We're so excited to welcome Sylvia Sabanilla and Uriel Zelaya Perez to our dais this morning to share their message of hope and the work that they're doing in the support of farm worker justice and in support of the Immokalee community. Sylvia Sabanilla is a staff member and leader of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. Originally from Mexico, Ms. Sabanilla worked in the agricultural industry across the South for more than 17 years as a harvester, picking tomatoes, peppers, and other mixed vegetables. And as part of the Fair Food program, Ms. Sabanilla and her colleagues conduct workers' rights education in the fields and on farms participating in the Fair Food program. Ms. Sabanilla's work at the CIW includes hosting daily radio shows on the CIW's low-powered community FM radio station and leading the weekly women's group meetings, also receiving complaints from abuses in the fields and managing wage theft claims that come into the CIW. Finally, Ms. Sabanilla represents the CIW, as she's doing this morning at the national level, speaking publicly on the challenges faced by farm workers in Florida, both during major actions with thousands of consumers across the country and in small settings like this one. So we welcome Sylvia to our dais, along with Uriel Zelaya Perez, who is the National Faith Coordinator of the Alliance for Fair Food, a diverse network of students, people of faith, and the broader community of members across the country working in partnership with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers towards a food system based on dignity and respect. The Alliance for Fair Food, at the Alliance for Fair Food, Uriel works to bring the spiritual resources of diverse faith communities, faith traditions, and the moral weight of faith-based voices in society to collaborate with farm workers for justice in the agricultural industry. He also facilitates education for faith communities, including dialogue between farm workers and non-farm workers, people of faith, in the hope that people of faith will take action in support of farm worker justice. Uriel also coordinates faith-based participation in the CIW's campaign for fair food, leveraging the moral, consumer, shareholder, and social power of faith communities to effectively call on major tomato purchasers to ensure farm workers' fair wages and human rights. I should say that he is also the facilitator and convener of the Faith Working Group, of which I'm a member, along with a number of people, clergy people across the country, who help to coordinate these efforts that Uriel takes on at the Alliance for Fair Food. So we're grateful for the presence of Sylvia and Uriel in our sanctuary this morning. As usual, we're happy that Ruben Moya is at the keyboard out there in Techland, along with John Forsyth. And we're grateful that Abby and Sean are once again with us to provide us with our music. So, as usual, we will begin our service with a prelude and Sean will have a few words to say about the music that you'll hear today.
Composed in 1975, American composer Frederick Rzewski's monumental piano work, The People United Will Never Be Defeated, is an hour-long set of 36 variations of the Chilean protest song El Pueblo Unido Jamás Será Vencido by Sergio Ortega and Chilean folk music group Quilapayún. The song brought music to a slogan that was strongly associated with the popular unity government of Salvador Allende, but it subsequently spread throughout South America and eventually around the world as a general protest song in favor of workers' rights. Rzewski's variations explore an enormous range of compositional techniques and musical styles in an effort to illustrate the feeling created when people from diverse backgrounds come together for a common purpose, as well as to communicate the urgency of such a project. Today, Abby will be giving you just a small taste of this large work. She will be playing the rousing theme by itself during the prelude to set up the atmosphere for today's important message from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and Alliance for Fair Food. And she will be playing variations 13 and 28 along with a reprise of the theme during today's offertory. It is our hope that this, along with our closing hymn, will encourage us all to act and help the CIW and the AFF in any ways that we can. Thank you. Here's Abby.
We come together. We come together dedicated to the proposition that beneath all our differences, beyond all our diversity, there is a unity that binds us forever together. In spite of time and death and the space between the stars, we are one human family on the one and only planet we know that can sustain us. And so we pause in silent witness to all that binds us, each to the other. Let's join together in expressing our chalice lighting that you'll see on the screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission, to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's join together in singing our opening hymn this morning, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free. where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from the spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Now proud to turn the dais over to Sylvia Sabanilla and Uriel Zedea Perez.
Bueno, buenos días, mi nombre es Silvia Sabanilla y agradeciendo a esta congregación con el reverendo Tony, estamos muy felices de regresar en esta congregación, ¿verdad? Que ya tenemos mucho tiempo que no habíamos hecho esto y estamos muy felices. Y pues nosotros somos trabajo en la coalición de trabajadores de Immokalee. Y pues vamos a dar un poquito la actualización de lo que todo hemos hecho durante estos años.
So good morning. My name is Silvia Sabanilla, and my name is Uriel, and I'll be interpreting for Silvia today. We're super grateful for the opportunity to join you this morning, UUCGN and Reverend Tony, to be here again with a congregation that has been very supportive of our work. We're excited to connect with you even during this pandemic. Today we're going to be sharing a little bit of who we are. We're with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, a farmworker human rights organization.
Así es, nosotros somos la coalición de trabajadores de Immokalee, para los que no conocen, ¿verdad? Ya por más de 25 años que estamos trabajando para defender los derechos de los trabajadores que enfrentan los abusos en los campos, el acoso sexual, la discriminación o también la esclavitud moderna, ¿verdad? Que es un poco fuerte esta palabra, pero sabemos que está sucediendo aquí en el estado de la Florida.
And for those who may not have heard of the Coalition before, if you're just getting introduced to our work, the Coalition, again, is a farm worker human rights organization focused on eliminating abuses that farm workers face in our agricultural industry. When we talk about abuses, we're referring to abuses such as wage theft, physical violence, gender-based violence, and in some cases, cases of modern-day slavery. And we know when we use that word slavery, it's a really strong word, but indeed that's what's happening in the agricultural industry, not only in our state here in Florida, but in just agriculture in general.
Sabemos que en los años 90 no había tanto lo que eran los derechos de los trabajadores, ¿verdad? Que lo que sucedía es que los trabajadores que le quitaban su salario no sabían cómo ellos si le pagaban todo o no, entonces muchos de los contratistas se aprovechaban de eso, ¿verdad? Hoy en día, en el 2010 empezó lo que es el programa de comida justa, que ahora ya hay derecho de los trabajadores, hay agua, hay también lo que es la sombra, que eso no existía años atrás, que ahora con estos cambios del clima, ¿verdad? Que ahora gracias a la coalición que ha trabajado por mucho tiempo, pues estos son los logros que se ha hecho.
And the coalition got started in the 1990s, in a context where farm workers were working to put food on all of our tables and were susceptible and experiencing all types of abuse, abuse like wage theft, like physical violence. And so at that time, the coalition began organizing to address these issues. Long story though, in 2010, we started the Fair Food Program, which is a program that is working to eliminate and to address the systemic problems that were happening in agriculture. It's been now over 20 years of a struggle to eliminate these issues that farm workers face.
Y esto no se ha logrado solamente la coalición, ¿verdad? Gracias a esta congregación y a muchas más congregaciones que ha estado dando su granito de arena, ha estado en solidaridad de nosotros. Entonces, demos gracias a todos ustedes también que ha estado apoyando.
And we have not been able to create this change or to get to the Fair Food Program alone. We're grateful for the support of congregations like this one and many other congregations across the United States who have all given their little grain of sand towards our hope, towards a better workplace for farm workers. And so that's the context that we exist today, and we're happy to have that solidarity from you.
Y bueno, todo lo que hemos hecho durante este tiempo, ¿verdad?, sobre coronavirus que ha estado afectando no nada más a los trabajadores, sino que todo el estado de la Florida, en todo el mundo. Pero lo más importante acá, pues siempre los trabajadores llaman como trabajadores esenciales, que ellos no habían tenido ese derecho, como por ejemplo el gobierno no toma esa responsabilidad de apoyar a los trabajadores. Sabemos que los trabajadores trabajan día a día de llevar el pan en nuestras mesas y no hay esos derechos, no hay ese apoyo durante este coronavirus. Entonces hicimos una campaña para para invitar, ¿verdad?, que el gobernador dé apoyo de los trabajadores. Y normalmente hicimos campaña que pedimos firmas, más de miles de firmas que se ha firmado para que el gobierno diera ese apoyo, pero no veíamos ese cambio, ¿verdad? Entonces, como en las redes sociales se publicaron, vino lo que es los Médicos Sin Fronteras, que fueron los primeros que vino a apoyar a la comunidad de Immokalee, más que nada a los trabajadores que no tenemos ese recurso para ir a un hospital cerquita. Tenemos que durar 40 minutos a 50 minutos para ir a un hospital.
Yeah, and so besides the work that we do with the Campaign for Fair Food, like anyone else, farm workers have been affected by COVID-19 and this pandemic, like everyone else in every other community. But farm workers have been especially vulnerable, and we've had to shift our work in order to address this vulnerability. In early 2020, we had to launch a campaign demanding testing and more resources from the Governor DeSantis and the Department of Health and just the state officials in general, because we were seeing that although farm workers are a vulnerable community in the state of Florida, they weren't necessarily being addressed, or their needs weren't necessarily being addressed. And so we launched a campaign, had a petition where tens of thousands of allies signed this petition demanding more resources for the farm worker community. Even with that petition, we saw that it was a lackluster response from government officials, and so we had to look for alternative ways to be able to support the Immokalee community. And one of those ways that we were able to support was through our partnership with Doctors Without Borders, an organization known internationally that was helping us set up pop-up clinics here in Immokalee. Because as many of you know, if you are in Immokalee, the nearest hospital to you is about 45 minutes to an hour away. And transportation is not necessarily a given. And so again, access to these kinds of medical resources is not a given for the farm worker community.
Hemos buscado también fondos, ¿verdad? Hemos buscado ese fondo para apoyar a los trabajadores para que se queden en cuarentena, ¿verdad? Cuando se enfermen al coronavirus, tiene que guardar ese tiempo. Entonces se le da ese apoyo a los trabajadores, y más que nada también nosotros lo que hemos trabajado bastante, aunque ya no hemos hecho nuestra campaña de Wendy's, que desde hace mucho tiempo, ¿verdad?, que hicimos esta campaña para apoyar nuestra comunidad, traer mascarilla, llevar desinfectante y tocar puertas a puertas para que se cuidara sobre este coronavirus. Y pues no nada más eso que venimos a decir, sino que también una actualización que sucedió el año pasado, ¿verdad?, de Nicolás Morales, que es un trabajador del campo. Por muchos años él lo asesinó uno de los sheriffs del departamento de Collier, ¿verdad?, que no sabía la situación en que él estaba. Él estaba enfrentando una crisis mentalmente y pues él salió en medianoche para pedir ayuda, ¿verdad? Pero en realidad la ayuda que le dieron los sheriffs lo mataron. Entonces nosotros ahora esa campaña también se ha hecho durante su muerte hasta ahora, que estamos pidiendo justicia, que pueda cambiar lo que es sus hacer otro tipo de ellos de trabajo para poder apoyar a estas a personas que sufren mentalmente, y de estar preparado estos sheriffs, no de recibir a una persona así y no actuar de matar luego a un trabajador.
Yeah, so beside our advocacy work demanding more resources for farm worker communities, we also started a fund with our partners at the Presbyterian Church to give monetary resources to farm workers who came out positive from COVID, so that they're able to quarantine themselves when they're home. As you know, farm workers, for context, and I'm adding this, farm workers work paycheck to paycheck, so the ability for them to self-quarantine after coming positive is not really a reality. It's not really an option for them when they have bills to pay, and those bills aren't stopping. And so through this fund, we've been able to support farm workers who come out positive by helping them out financially so that they can stay home and protect themselves. Besides that, we've also received significant funds and help from our community partners to give face masks, hand sanitizers consistently, tens and thousands of these products free of charge to any farm worker in our community. And so this work of COVID has really put a pause to our regular work of the Campaign for Fair Food and demanding support or demanding that the Wendy's Corporation join our campaign. But rightly so, we needed to be there for our community. Unfortunately, while doing this work of COVID, though, we've also faced another issue. As some of you may know, a farm worker, member of the CIW by the name of Nicolás Morales, was shot and killed by Collier County sheriffs now close to a year ago. Nicolás was suffering a mental health breakdown, a mental health crisis, and instead of helping him, he was shot to death and bitten by a canine unit dog. Today, he had a son who also had lost his mother before, so he now left an orphan son. And so we have launched a campaign demanding that CCSO better equip itself to addressing mental health issues, because it's not okay for our first response when addressing these kinds of issues to fire a gun at someone. And so that is a part of the work that we're doing, demanding a better policy and better practice by CCSO.
Entonces, lo que estamos pidiendo, ¿verdad?, a toda nuestra comunidad, que hemos hecho una imagen de Nicolás, ¿verdad?, para pedir toda nuestra comunidad que firmara esta imagen que se hizo. Golpear a uno es golpear a todos. Y vamos a entregar esta bandera aquí en Naples, aquí en el condado Collier de Sheriff, el día 17, es un viernes 17 de septiembre. Y pues le damos esa invitación para todos los que puedan, nos puede acompañar ese día, que va a ser empezando a las 3 de la tarde. Entonces le hacemos ese llamado para todos los que gustan y puedan participar. Vamos a tener ese distanciamiento para todos los que gustan traer su mascarilla. Va a ser, todo va a ser en distanciamiento social por toda la seguridad sobre coronavirus, que sabemos que todavía está muy alto el estado de la Florida.
Yeah. And so if you want to support these efforts, one of the ththings that we're doing in support of this effort is we're going around the Immokalee community with a a drawing, a big painting that says, hitting one of us is like hitting all of us. And farm workers pass by our offices at all times to sign this art petition. And on September 17th, which is coming up, we're going to be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Nicolas's passing. And our plan is to show or to present this flag with all of these signatures to Collier County Sheriff's Office here in Naples. And so if you're able to come out and support, we're having this protest Friday, September 17th at 3 p.m. At Airport Pulling and 10 Miami Trail, US 41. And then it again, in order to continue showing CCSO that the Immokalee community is not okay with what happened with Nicolás.
Y bueno, la razón que estamos aquí también es porque nosotros queremos darle una invitación, ¿verdad? Que hoy, mañana es el Labor Day, que es para muchos, no trabajamos, ¿verdad? Aquí en Estados Unidos, pero para los trabajadores no tiene ese descanso, ¿verdad? De tener ese descanso en casa, sino que todos tienen que trabajar y no tiene esos derechos. Entonces es una de las cosas que nosotros para el día de hoy, ¿verdad? Vamos a hacer una protesta. Entonces le damos también esa invitación. Si quiere llegar a las 3 de la tarde, vamos a empezar a hacer esa protesta sobre Wendy's para que él se una al programa que tiene más de 8 años que no se ha unido al programa para cambiar estos derechos. Sabemos que millones de trabajadores siguen estas situaciones que no tiene ese derecho, esa voz, o no tiene buena conducta de estas corporaciones, y estas corporaciones solo quiere mayor ganancia, pero al trabajador no le da esos derechos de este. Entonces le damos esa invitación que nos acompañe a 5 de septiembre a las 3 de la tarde, que va a ser hoy que es a las 3 de la tarde. Para todos los que gustan nos puede acompañar.
Yeah, and the main reason why we're here to culminate is because tomorrow we'll be celebrating Labor Day. And for most people, Labor Day is a day of, getting a day off of work, right? And staying home with family. But the reality is that farm workers often don't have that luxury of celebrating Labor Day. To them, it's just another regular day of going to work and toiling in the fields. And so what we ask is the reason we're here is to extend an invitation again to you to come celebrate Labor Day with the farm workers. Today at Airport Road, at 1094-1 in Airport Road, on Immokalee Road and Airport Road, there's a Wendy's protest happening at 3 p.m. We hope that if you're able to join us to come out and celebrate Labor Day in the way that it's intended to be celebrated, in support of farm workers who are, again, continuing to toil to put food on our tables. This protest is going to be socially distanced. We're requiring masks. Everything is going to be safe and for you to participate in a way that feels comfortable for you. And so this, again, is a protest in support of essential farm workers who continue to work and continue to be exploited and facing conditions of abuse, even though companies like Wendy's continue to turn massive profits even during this pandemic. And so we hope that you can come and join us today, September 5th at 3 p.m. again at Airport Pulling and Immokalee Road. There's a Wendy's on that corner. We hope that you can join us there.
Y bueno, también estamos pidiendo, ¿verdad?, la solidaridad para todos los que nos están viendo, los que nos están escuchando, si puede participar, pero también estamos pidiendo donaciones, ¿verdad?, para que siga esta campaña, seguir todo esto, lo que es la campaña, ¿verdad?, que siga estos cambios de los trabajadores, porque sabemos, como había mencionado, hay muchos trabajadores que todavía enfrenta estas situaciones. Entonces queremos que haya esas donaciones para que nosotros podamos seguir dando esa educación a los trabajadores, que sepa dónde reportar los abusos que siguen pasando hoy en día. Entonces, con un granito de arena que puedan aportar, eso es bastante ayuda para nosotros. Entonces, eso es todo, y le damos gracias al reverendo Tony, que nos dio hoy esta oportunidad de estar aquí con ustedes, y esperemos que vamos a seguir así porque sabemos con todo lo que está pasando, pues es difícil, ¿verdad? Pero queremos siempre estar positivo, seguir adelante.
Yeah, and so one last thing is we do call for solidarity if you're not able to join us in person at these actions is to make a donation in support of the work that is being done, the COVID work or continuing work to support farm workers in their workplace that are facing abuses and conditions, who are facing wage theft and such. So if you're able to support in that way, we're always taking donations from allies who want to support in that way. And again, we want to just express our gratitude and of how thankful and grateful we are to be able to connect with you, even during this pandemic. We are always happy to be able to join congregations that support the work of CIW. And so again, thank you so much for giving us the time and the space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia and Uriel, for being with us. We wish we could have a full sanctuary to be welcome you and applauding you and the work that you do. We're grateful for your presence, and we will invite you back when the sanctuary is full. Let's center ourselves now with Spirit of Life by Carolyn McDade.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
We take this time, as we do every week, to center ourselves in community, in the spirit of this place and this family of people, a family that extends far beyond these walls, across this county, this state, and this nation. We honor the ups and downs of each day, of each week, of each life, understanding that joys and sorrows are woven fine, and that all make up our lives together on this planet. I'd like to remember a member of this congregation who passed away a week ago today, Donna Carty, who we brought forward in the service last week as struggling for her life. Donna was a tenacious, vibrant individual who gave much to the world, to this community, and she will be greatly missed. And for her husband Alan, for her son Matt, for her family, we light a candle honoring her life. And we take a moment for Donna in silence. And if you have a loved one who's in your mind and your heart, if you're worried about them, if you're sharing their joy, we hope that in this space, provided you will speak their name out loud, honoring their life and their connection to you, sharing that through whatever way possible with the rest of us. So if you have someone you're thinking about, please speak the name now. Knowing that there are so many things we think about, feel about, so many people on our minds on a regular basis, we light a candle of community for all those whose name has been spoken and for all those who have no one to speak their name. Let's join together in the spirit of meditation, followed by some silence, and then musical meditation. Fuente de amor, source of life and love, come to us in this moment of quiet. Sing compassion into our hearts and breathe justice into our lives. Let us see the connections in all things, the inescapable network of mutuality that binds us each to the whole and the whole to each of us. Help us understand that saving the earth or the hungry or the oppressed or the imprisoned or the workers, or those impacted by storm, or flood, or fire, is as much or more about saving ourselves, about letting go the barriers that keep us apart, that keep us from truly knowing, truly experiencing the unity of all things. Fuente de amor, source of love, come to us in this moment of quiet, breathe justice into our lives, and sing compassion into our hearts for ourselves and for our fellow travelers. Let's share some moments in silence.
How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? his head, pretending he just doesn't see. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? How many years must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Our first reading this morning comes to us from an address given 64 years ago by United Auto Workers President Walter Reuther, speaking at the time to the NAACP, the national organization, also speaking at a time when gender-specific language was the norm. Reuther said, "I think we all realize that the world is troubled, that we live with crisis in America, and that the people of every nation are living with crisis in the world. I've been saying for a long time that the crisis in the world is not economic or political or military. Essentially, the crisis in the world is a moral crisis. It's a reflection of man's growing inhumanity to himself, of man's growing inhumanity to man. And in a sense, our crisis in America, the crisis in education, the crisis in civil rights, is not political, it is moral. We've got all it takes to solve these problems, but we haven't demonstrated the moral courage to step up to solving them. And this is our basic problem. America is in crisis not because it lacks economic resources, not because it lacks the political know-how, not because we don't know how to do the job of squaring democracy's practices with its noble promises. We just haven't demonstrated the moral courage. And until we do, we will not meet the basic crisis in civil rights, in education, in workers' rights."
The next one is a reading from Greg Asped, the co-founder or a co-founder of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, on a post that he wrote after the election of that year, 2016. He writes, "If we as Americans are to protect the fragile progress towards ever greater social justice that we have made across the generations, we must fight together in a broad and inclusive movement to protect our rights, immigrant rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, civil rights, labor rights, our right to health care, our right to religious freedom, our right to a clean and sustainable environment, our right to a fair and equitable economy, and more, our human rights. If each one of those sectors faces the challenge alone, we will be weak, we will be on the defensive, and we may lose ground. Together, however, we can define the agenda, one that fosters a vision of universal human rights, and we can win.
When we are singing, we are bound together. When we are sharing, we are free to be. Both in our singing and in our sharing, we are bringing change. We are making peace. When we are helping, we can be our best. When we are loving, hurt is put to rest. Both in our helping and in our loving, we are bringing change. We are making peace.
When Ann and I were invited down to Southwest Florida to meet with the search committee of this congregation, all done in secrecy because that sort of negotiation with potential ministers was done on the QT so that the search committee could present their final candidate to the congregation at one time. We were welcomed warmly by that search committee, and part of the process of that, along with interviews throughout a weekend and preaching at a neutral pulpit, was an opportunity to explore with our committee the area, to see what the area was like. And within that context, Ann and I were shown all the wonderful things in Southwest Florida, all the paradise that's here, including a trip out to Immokalee, and to understand that that community is this community, that it's not a separate place, that it is part of the community that this congregation serves. And so I'm grateful to the search committee, especially Janice Rogers and Ann Fullerton, for conveying that message that this was our community too, our farm working community here in Southwest Florida. Our connection with Immokalee has been long-term. For a long time, this congregation supported the Immokalee Housing and Family Services, an organization that supported housing opportunities for migrant workers and did it well, and so we supported their efforts. And while they evolved out of that particular role, and we sort of shifted some of our focus to other organizations that we've supported over the past few years, our connections with the community continue through individuals who volunteer in various places, in schools and in organizations in Immokalee, through participation in the interagency meetings out in Immokalee on a regular basis, and more recently with my involvement with the Faith Working Group, and in an attempt to sort of recreate a stronger connection with the Immokalee family. And so I think and I hope that what we've been aware of within our community is an understanding of our connection with all that has been transpiring over the past year in terms of the deeper exposure of the inequities in our country, because they exist right here in Collier County. And I hope that these realizations are not left behind as we come out of the pandemic, hopefully, eventually, or swept back under the rug so that we can hold them at arm's length. I hope that we'll continue to hold these truths in our hearts and minds and work towards their resolution with more energy, more compassion, more courage as we move forward. Our nation's inequities are not something that just happen. They are the result of concerted efforts on the part of people with power, with the resources, to control markets, to control the workers, to control the environment. And we recognize that those inequities that exist are the result of particular actions that are taken in our world, and that particular actions can begin, if done together and with courage, and in Greg Asbed's words, we can make a difference and make change. Walter Reuther knew 64 years ago that this struggle, the workers' struggle, was not about leverage, it wasn't about negotiation, it was about moral courage, moral power that needed to be exerted not just by the workers, but by those who understood the importance of the broader community and our connection with one another. The model presented by the Coalition of Immokalee Workers is an avenue for us to take part in this collective action, this alternative approach, simply by recognizing our power as consumers to make change. And so you ask, why? Why should we do this? And maybe the answer is obvious to you, or maybe you can't articulate it as clearly except for some feeling that you have, but it really is embedded in our Unitarian Universalist history and our principles and our purposes. Unitarian Universalism has a prophetic message about the human capacity to create change and make our communities and our world better. We believe we can make a difference by speaking, acting, and spending in concert with our values and by centering and empowering communities that are most impacted by economic injustice. Our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to respond to economic injustice and act in solidarity with those among us being harmed, believing that there is enough, there is abundance, there's enough for everyone's need, but not enough for greed. It begins with our first principle that speaks to the worth and dignity inherent in our humanity, something that is not dependent on our economic status or our immigration status. And it flows through all our principles, right down to our sense of interdependence, believing we can all live in more abundance when we prioritize people over profits and when our economy connects human gifts with human needs. As Unitarian Universalists, we call on the wisdom from the world's religions to inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. And so we look to the Buddhists who acknowledge the poisonous nature of greed. And we look to Islam, which asserts that the principle of justice must be at the core of economic activities. The Tao Te Ching states that if people chase after money and security, their hearts will never unclench. And our Jewish and Christian roots teach us that poverty is an unjustifiable burden and that we should love our neighbors as ourselves and work towards equity. Our own Unitarian Universalist heritage, our own Universalist heritage, counsels that our mutual salvation on the earth can only be achieved by individual and collective efforts to achieve sufficient abundance for all. Those of us who have chosen to be in this community, and Unitarian Universalism is in some ways a chosen faith in that we choose to be here. We are not required to be here. We choose as individuals to join this community. If we're here, we have the wisdom gained over years of experience and learning to know what is good and what is right. We look at our Unitarian Universalist principles and nod our heads, affirming that for the most part they reflect our deepest values and aspirations. To be a Unitarian Universalist in this world at this time requires something more than saying yes to a list of ethical principles or engaging in intellectual or spiritual conversations. And while these activities are a wonderful part of our UU culture, we do love a good discussion. The flip side of the coin is that we follow our hearts and minds out the door and into an active engagement with the world, walking the talk, in order to try and leave this world a better place than what was left for us. We like to say we're a social justice church, that we show up, but we often struggle to find the will to move from our places of comfort and safety towards a life lived in full solidarity with the rich diversity of the earth and all its people, including folks right here in our community. The good news is that none of us have to do this alone. In fact, this is not a journey that anyone can succeed at alone. Those of us who will join together this afternoon will know not only intellectually, but we will feel and know from our core that this work requires the yearning of many hearts, beating towards something called the common good. Change doesn't come quickly, but requires patience and community action, which means showing up together when we are called to be in solidarity with our community partners. If we listen to our own inner voice and to the voices of our fellow travelers, we will know that the way requires joint commitment to the work and though we will inevitably make missteps and wrong turns along the way, we will remember to forgive ourselves and each other as we move together toward responsible, open relationships with the larger community, locally and globally, to bring the world of peace, justice, and love, and build that wider community together. So may it be with us. Hopefully, we will feel this together this afternoon. And let's consider our gifts and what we can bring to our community. So grateful for the message today that Sylvia and Uriel presented to us, acknowledging our tradition and our beliefs. Let's now show our solidarity with the Farmworker community and all that it provides to us. This morning's offering will be donated to their ongoing efforts. And our relationship and our ongoing relationship with them, and please considering sending a contribution today. The information you need to donate is on your screen. If you are sending a check to the congregation, you can split the plate on the memo bar, and that will cue everybody who's receiving that information to know where to put that money. So the morning's offering for the ongoing blessings of the Immokalee community, the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, and this congregation will be gratefully received. Thank you very much, Abby, so much. The people united will never be defeated. It's a few announcements this morning. If you would like to be on our mailing list to hear more about all the various things that happen here at the congregation, please do be in touch with our administrator. Please email office@uunaples.org and we'll make sure you're on our list. We note that this week we received our official certification of becoming a Blue Zones faith community, so we want to congratulate again all those over the last few years who have made that possible, and you will be hearing more about Blue Zones in the coming months. The reopening committee and the board of directors continue to monitor local information, and for the moment we will maintain this wait-and-see attitude, but they will be coming together in the next week or so to look again at all the variables that go into the decision here. And you will, of course, know as soon as the decision is made about re-entering the sanctuary for services. Until then, you are invited to join a small group of wonderful people out on the pavilion who are out there and to watch the service, the live service, both through the doors and on the large screen out there. And today, there's even cupcakes, so you can never know what might happen on a Sunday morning. And remind you once again that this afternoon at 3 o'clock, outside of Wendy's on Airport and at Airport in Immokalee, we'll have a protest in the hopes of bringing Wendy's into the fold of the Fair Food Program. And we hope that you'll able to be there and have a great time chanting and singing and showing our solidarity with the Coalition and the Alliance for Fair Food. 3 o'clock this afternoon. Next week, our services will focus on our youth and our religious education program, and in the following weeks, we'll consider what we need to hold on to and what we need to forget as we move through the pandemic and hopefully out on the other side in what continues to be a troubling and troubled world. So we hope you'll join us over the next 3 weeks. And now our closing hymn.
Just a little bit of context before we sing. This song originally came from the African American spiritual tradition, but it was in the 1930s that We Shall Not Be Moved and its Spanish version, No Nos Moverán, both became rallying cries for solidarity in U.S. labor and civil rights movements, often deployed by singers arm in arm in the face of repression. No Nos Moverán would go on to become an important part of the Chicano movement of the 1960s, as well as of the social justice and farm workers movements across Spain, Latin America, and the United States. The English translation is, we shall not be moved, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved. Now, today we're just going to sing it through 4 times.
Just do it.
Yeah, we will. Okay, thanks. No, no, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río. No nos moverán. Unidas en la lucha, no nos moverán. Unidos en la lucha, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río. No nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán. Por nuestras hermanas no nos moverán, por nuestras hermanas no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán. junto al río no nos moverán. Por nuestros hermanos no nos moverán, por nuestros hermanos no nos moverán, como un árbol firme junto al río no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán, no, no, no nos moverán, como un árbol firme junto al río no nos moverán. United in the struggle, no nos moverán. United in the struggle, no nos moverán, como un árbol firme junto al río no nos moverán.
We must shine. We must shine now. This is the goal towards which we stretch step by step, in our own time, at our own pace. As our beauty unfolds and our hearts open, we become gentler and more compassionate, yet brighter and more empowered and fearless. We have been holding on, holding back, playing small, hiding our light under a bushel. Enough of that. It's time to let go. We are needed now. All of us together. Go in peace, go in love, and we'll see you this afternoon.